Okay, so the next one is your lead-based paint. Lead-based paint is required on anything before 1978. If it's after that, you don't have to worry about it. You are generally not going to have information about lead-based paint in a house other than it was before 1978. Everything that was built before 1978 has lead-based paint because paint had lead in it. There was no paint that didn't have lead. So it is what it is. I would never get a house tested for lead-based paint because then you have a whole nother set of government regulations that you have to go to get rid of the lead-based paint because now you know about the lead-based paint. Even though we all know that there's lead-based paint in everything before 1978. So we mark that the seller has no knowledge, the seller has no records. Generally, they're not going to have any records. I mean, I know like one person that does, and it's Michaela of all people. The next part, the purchasers get to initial. When your purchaser initials it, they're going to initial it, and then they're going to waive the opportunity. Most mortgages, once they have the actual paperwork that it has lead-based paint, they won't lend on it. So it's crazy. It's a government thing. You're going to waive the right. The next one is the agent's acknowledgement. So if you're the listing agent, you have to initial on the agent's acknowledgement, and then you're going to sign on the agent on the left-hand side, and the buying agent is going to signature on the right-hand side. Any questions about lead-based paint? Property disclosures. Property disclosures are fun things. Get everything answered. That's the biggest thing. When we give them out and you bring them back, if there is not a question answered, I'm going to send it back to you and tell you you missed something. Because when I get it, when I send it in to Keller Williams for their compliance, they're going to send it back to me. So go through, make sure that everything is signed, everything's good to go. The two things that are usually missed are page 4, test performed. I don't know why it's so hard for people to answer that question, but they don't even answer the whole, none of them on that line. Because they think I haven't had any tests performed. So just say no. The next one is on page 3, and it's just making sure there's a lot of little check marks in there, just making sure that they're all check marked and answered. Because Alex goes through it with a fine-tooth comb, and she will find the one that is not check marked. The last one that is usually missed, where is it? I gotta find it, because it's missed. It's gonna be on the second page, number 5. The question on number 5 is, are you aware of any roof leakage past or present? Usually the answer is no, and then you skip to the next question. No, don't skip to the next question. There is more question. What is the type of the roof covering and how old is it? So even if the answer is no, they still got to tell what the roof covering is and how old it is. The last part on the property disclosure, I've got it marked, and it's I got a little sticky, and it should show up on yours. If it is a rental property, they still have to fill out a disclosure. The only times you don't have to fill out a disclosure is what? New construction and estates. So grandma died and a foreclosure. Grandma died, we don't know anything about the house. They don't have to fill it out. Okay, grandma died. I lived there from the time I was, born until I was 21. But it's been 40 years ago. I would still have them fill out to the best of their knowledge, and then that's what the last part is. I've never lived at this property, and this is what I would do for an investment seller as well, is I've never lived at the property, I filled this out to the best of my knowledge, it's the best I can do. That way, their butt is covered, just in case something happened. Not all landlords are gonna know if the plumber was called. Sometimes the renters will do it and never tell them. A lot of times, they'll know, but it does cover them for things that they don't know. In the estate situation, I would still, if there's somebody that has knowledge about the property, it's always better to fill it out and then give as much information as you know, but then at the back, say this is an estate sale, and I haven't lived there, and I've actually had them put, I lived there from the age of 12 to 19, but I haven't lived there for 40 years, so this is done to the best of my knowledge. Any questions? Okay, the last one I have for you is the new listing agreement. If you wanted to use it, our team, I don't think is ever gonna use it. It's got some differences, so be aware of the differences. The main thing that's different is it doesn't ask or doesn't tell what commission you are giving to the buying agent. So as a seller, personally, I would want to know what you're paying, what portion of my commission is going to that person. If, you know, it's 1% and you're keeping 5% of it, what are you spending 5% on? You know, why, and that being said, because I'm in real estate, I know what it should be. If you're only giving them 1%, although it should be even, although every agent should show every buyer any house that they wanted to see in spite of the commission that was offered to them, there are some agents who will not show a house that has a very small commission for them. They just won't. I would think if I was a seller, I would want to know if you're trying to hurt my chances of selling this property. And paying the other agent considerably less than market value for their commission is not in my best interest. So that's the number one reason I don't use the new one. There's hardly anything else that's different on it. They've rearranged some stuff so it looks different, but every other question is on the old listing agreement that's on the new one. They've just rearranged it. They've added some places for buyers and sellers to initial, but other than that, it's essentially the same document. All right, these are, so you have a completed packet, so you can look and see what a fully completed packet looks like for a listing. It's got every page filled out, it's got every question filled out, it's got every document that you need in there. So all you have to do is go back and say, okay, this is my first listing I've ever done, so what documents do I need? And how do they need to be filled out? This is what they need to look like. These are the questions that absolutely need to be answered. I've highlighted things so you know exactly what, I mean, you can highlight before you get in there so that you don't forget while you're in there, this needs to be done. Any questions about listing properties? All right, guys, next week we're gonna put them on the MLS. And